Hi everybody, this is Mrs. Lucal. I am making, using our loom that we made, or even if you don't have this made ahead of time, you can make another one. So how I did, I made it 6 1/4. It didn't have to be 6 1/4, but according to the number of these that I did, that's what I did. And then it's about 5 inches wide. So it's just a piece of corrugated cardboard. One thing I noticed is when I cut this nice edge here, the skewers that I made fell through. So I'm actually going to smush it a little bit. Okay. You want it to be a little bit tighter to hang on to that. And I'm doing it mostly on the edges, but I suppose it doesn't matter where you do it, as long as there's some part of it that's like a little bit pinched tighter. All right. See how that's a little bit tighter than it was before. Then I have skewers. All right. And I am putting them every other one. So I'm going to push that one in there and then skip one and then put it in there. All right. And there's a little resistance as I push it in, so I must have smushed the cardboard enough. All right. So I'm going to put all of these in. See if I can speed that up. I just realized I have 17 of these. I have an odd number. Okay. And if you want yours less, that's fine. I found that these are 3 millimeters wide, or diameter, I should say. That the somewhat thicker ones did not work as well with this cardboard, unless you have some better, thicker cardboard. It actually started ripping holes in my cardboard, which was not good. So, but I have these 8-inch long, 3 millimeter diameter skewers from Amazon, actually. So here I'm doing all of these. I have a couple more over here. Okay, and let's see. Then I have some string that I had from a weaving project that I got. I'm sure that any kind of string would work fine. So by the way, this is kind of easy how you can push down on the table and kind of, I don't know, even it out a little bit. Okay. So I have that, I put tape on there for people's names, but I have some extra, it's just really thin. But I think that you could find some kind of string, or even if it was a thicker string, or even if it was yarn, I think that would still work. So, all right, now here was a little bit of a trick that I had to figure out. I actually tied it around the first two. All right, the first two, because I didn't want the end, when I took it off the loom, I didn't want it to fall off and not be attached to anything and kind of slide through. So I've tied it one time, and I'm just going to tie it 2 times, double knot. All right, but my knot is way over here at the second one. And let's see, I think I did it this way. Or maybe I did do it over here. And then I pulled, yeah, I think I did. All right. And then I actually included that one that I tied it on, because I wanted these all to be enmeshed together, basically. But it does make it a little bit narrower, closer together at this end than it does at this end. But it's super minor. So, all right. And then every other one, do you see how not every other one, I guess. It's going around 2 and then go down here, but I skipped one. And then it goes around those 2 and then it comes back up here. But I had skipped this one in between. Basically, I'm trying to make these lines even. So if you're like this, you're probably like, wait, that doesn't look right. So you're probably right. See if you can do it this way. So here's kind of the pattern on the end, if that makes sense. And by doing that, I found that if you weave it's called a plain weave, just over, under, that pattern that we did, it all stays together pretty nicely. All right. And this is a really great basic kind of weaving project I found. Although this is the first time I've used this particular loom that I've made up. So, all right, and I'm going to cut some extra here, and I'm going to tie this, to these 2, but I'm actually going to try to include this one. There is something it's called a half hitch. So you basically kind of make a loop and you pick that up. Okay, if that makes sense, and you pull that. and then you make a loop, kind of like a 4. Do you remember doing that in maybe in our, in our like friendship bracelets? Whoops. You make a 4 and you make that part go through the hole that you made. Try to keep this tight though. Oh my goodness, I can't get a hold of that. All right, there we go. And then try to make that tight. That helps if it's relatively tight. All right, so there I have it. I have them all linked together. 17 skewers is how I did it. And you could have less if you wanted to. But this way, by the time when you take that off and this way, it made a relatively square weaving, which I thought was pretty nice for a cup. I don't have a smaller cup, but here's my water bottle. Okay. And that kind of works pretty good. All right. So, from here, I would pick some yarn and let's see. I'm feeling, I'll do a multi one. Okay. All right. Then you can just tie. I like to just get it started. Okay. I might want to tie the end on. All right. And then you also need a whole bunch. I would, depending on how, if you want to do stripes or what, but you need to have a fair amount of it to work with. All right. And then if you remember, you want to twist that, see which way it's already twisted, and then twist it more, tighter, okay? And you pinch that, and then you take your needle and squeeze that through the eye, all right? And hopefully you can get all of that through. All right, and then from there, you just do that over, under pattern. All right, and if you want to get fancy, you could try a couple things. You could try going and making patterns like I did here. Okay, that's the back. I did some here back and forth like that. And then when I came back and I included it, here's my tree that I did, that I started doing. You can kind of see down here what I was doing. So when I did all the green first, and then I went back and did the blue. But when I did the blue, I kind of like grabbed these are called warp strings, warp that goes up and down, and weft goes left and right. That's how I remember it. So it goes here and it kind of grabs the same one that this one did. So they're kind of like that, all right, on the string. And that kind of helps keep it from having big gaps. You could do it and have it stop here, but then you'd have a hole. Okay, so this way it just kind of comes together like that. So that's one thing that you could try. That's a little bit more advanced. And then what I did for the sun, for example, is I just put more yarn on it and I just kind of sewed the sun rays on it, which I don't know. I'm not sure I like that one as much as I like this other stripe one, to be honest. So then you can do this and you just go over, under, over, under. You might want to do, pull, oops, you got your bump there. Oops, I got a knot in there, didn't I? Look at that. All right, you got to work that through. You got to be patient and gentle. All right, which is sometimes hard for elementary kids, but it is possible and it's good practice because life sometimes is just not, sometimes you just have some patience in life, right? All right, so back to this. So we went under that one. Now we need to go over that one. So we go under this one. Whoops, over, under. I like to do a few at a time. This is good for like going halfway. And then we'll pull all of that through. Now this was kind of a long string. I didn't need to make it quite this long, but then I don't have to tie one on later. All right, now over here, just want to make sure if you went under that, now we're going to go back over it. And if this one was over last time, now we go under it. Okay, so every other one. So if this one was over the warp string before, now we got to go under it. Just make sure you do it every other one, because if it's not opposite of the one before it, you're just going to pull everything that you just did right out. Okay. So I definitely should have made this a little bit shorter for this demonstration. But I did want to show you, let me finish this line at least. we're weaving the weft. All right, let's see if we can get this one across. Okay, so you don't want to pull this super tight, okay? And let me move this extra string that's a little bit in the way. If you pull this super tight, you end up with like kind of an hourglass shape one. You want to make that way looser than you think it should be. And these warp strings, see, I even pulled this one a little bit too tight. And then you can adjust it by just pulling everything a little bit looser, but you got to start at the source. All right, so you want to leave it looser than you think it needs to be. But the main thing is you want these warp strings to stay straight. All right, so when you go back again, and if you're trying to adjust the, the edges, then you need to go backwards. So here I'm gonna make it too tight. So what I need to do is, instead of messing with the things over here that it's not gonna help, we need to start back over here and pull that much, much looser. Even maybe if you're having issues over here too, you need to pull it way more than you think. Okay, so you should have it so that it's way looser than you think. Okay, it usually works out in the end if it's too much, but if it's not enough, it's gonna be tight, like in the middle. It's not gonna be squared. All right, so here I've got that, and then I'm gonna wanna smoosh that. Now I'm gonna change colors and show you how to do that. So let's say I've had enough of this one. I'm gonna switch colors. So I'm gonna give myself a little bit of room here to work with. So I'm gonna cut that, and then let's see, let's add something that's really different so you can tell. All right, so here's a black one. All right, so I'm gonna line this up, these two ends, and then I'm wrapping this to look like a 6. You see how I kind of wrap that around my finger? Does that kind of look like a 6 to you? Can you see the 6 like that? All right, then you can take these ends and goes through the middle. All right, this, and then you pull, that looks like kind of a pretzel. I mean, I know you got to use your imagination a little bit, but that looks a little bit like a pretzel to me. And then you can pull that tight. All right. With a little practice, you can get it closer to the end, but you can always trim that. All right. As long as it's not like really, really close, it shouldn't fall out. So that's I'd tug on it, make sure that you did it. If you do not get both ends through, it will fall right apart. Okay. So that is, I think, technically called an overhand knot, but I'm calling it 6 pretzels. I made that up. So if you want to do that, then you can always add more of a different color, a different string. And don't forget, you need to cut this and put it on the needle, which I have over here. All right. Well, I hope that was some helpful reminders of how to do that. And if you want to make a new one, I welcome you to do that. And if you don't want all these supplies, rather than throw them out, if you want to give me an email, I will or you could leave it with Mr. Lucal, who's in the 3rd grade room or hallway. That would, I can always reuse these. I'd rather reuse them than put them in the trash. So if anybody, I'd love to see what you've made. If you can take a picture and send it to me, I would love to see that. If your parents can do that, I should say. So, all right. Good luck with everybody, and happy holidays. Thanks. Bye.